Hey guys, it is me. It is CK Barlow from the Barlow Group Tax and Accounting Firm. So I want to welcome you to today's session. So I am so excited that you are here, whether you are joining us live or if you are catching a replay. Listen, you have made a smart decision to show up for yourself, to show up for your business on today. So again, my name is TK Barlow, and I am the founder of the Barlow Group, and I work with wellness and med spa business owners who are ready to build real profits, right? Who's ready to really get their finances in order and save time and save money the legal way through smart tax strategies, right? Because we are not trying to do anything illegal when it comes to the IRS, right? So we use smart tax strategies. So again, welcome, welcome, welcome. Today we are diving into one of the biggest questions that a lot of entrepreneurs have, and that is, what is an S corp, and should I be one, right? Because we see so much of this information on a lot of social media platforms coming from different people, and I know that sometimes this topic can be very confusing, but it is also one of the most powerful moves that you can play within your business, right? And so so today we are going to break down each step, and try to break it down to you in a plain language to where you understand exactly how an S corp can benefit your business, right? But before we dive in, I want to let you know about our upcoming boot camp for wellness owners. So our registration is going to be opening up soon for this. This is going to be a 2-day hands-on virtual workshop where I am going to walk you through how to set up your S corp properly, how to start paying yourself like a CEO, how to stay compliant with those payroll taxes and those tax filings, and how you can avoid some of those mistakes that we see a lot when it comes to being a business owner and operating as an S corp. And so if you are making money from your business each year, you have a net profit, but you are seeing a lot of taxes that you have to pay back, then listen, this boot camp is going to be for you. All right. So I want you to keep in mind about our upcoming boot camp. I definitely want to send you a personal invitation to participate in this if you are a candidate to be able to take this S corp election. Now, keep in mind, we are only accepting 10 clients. All right. So this is going to be the first one that is going to be coming up in the month of May. And for the month of May, we're just accepting 10 business clients because, again, this is going to be a one-on-one kind of walk you through becoming an S corp election and giving you all the training that you need to be able to maintain that. All right. But enough about that. Let's talk about today's topic and jump right into it. All right. So we're talking about what an S corp is, right? And again, we hear so much noise about becoming S corp, becoming S corp. Because again, this is one of the top ways that you are able to save money when it comes to those self-employment taxes, right? And what it is that a lot of people know all of the good benefits about taking the S corp election. However, the whole picture is not being painted, right? And so there are a lot of things that you have to consider before jumping into an S corp. And so that is the whole idea of us providing these sessions as well as the S corp bootcamp, is because we want to be able to educate business owners on the entire picture of what it means when you are taking the S corp election. All right. So yes, it is a legal way for you to be able to save money on those self-employment taxes. Yes, it is still going to protect your personal assets. yes, this is going to be a step, especially a good idea for those of you who are service-based businesses, all right? And most importantly, of course, it's going to give your business a more professional appearance when you are taking this S-Corp election, okay? So what is an S-Corp? Now, first of all, an S corp is not like a type of business. You know, you can open your business and you can become an LLC or you can become a corporation. What an S corp actually is, it is a tax election. All right, it is something that you file with the IRS. So you may start your business and create your entity as an LLC, and then you can choose to be taxed like an S corp by filing a form 2553. And this election can change how your business income is taxed and how you are able to now keep more profit in your pockets, right? And that is our goal, right? To be able to keep more of our hard earned money that we are making. And so an S corp is just, you know, a special tax status that you are electing with the IRS. It does not change how your business is structured. It only changes how your business is now taxed. All right. So if you are currently working as an LLC or a sole proprietor, then listen, all of your profits are being taxed as self-employment income. Okay. And that means that you are now paying 15.3% in self-employment taxes on everything. Again, if you started your business and you are operating as an LLC or a sole proprietor, everything that you bring in, that net income that you put on your taxes at the end of the year to, you know, reflect your profits, on that amount you are going to be taxed a self-employment tax, and that self-employment tax is 15.3%. All right, so that is off the top, guys. That's not even including any federal income or state income that you may owe. This is strictly talking about that self-employment income that you have made. Off the top, the IRS is going to want 15.3% of that. Okay. And that number can get really, really healthy as your business grows. All right. So again, the S corp election is not, I'm sorry, the S corp election is a tax election. It is not a legal entity. All right. So when you're telling the IRS that you want to be taxed as an S corp, what you are saying is, I still want to be an LLC or a corporation, but tax me like an S corp. Okay. And you still get that same liability protection, and you will keep that original structure that you originally had. All right. You're still going to be an LLC, but just taxed as an S corp. Okay. So that is how that is going to look. Okay. So what is it really? It what makes it so special? Like, what is the sauce behind the whole entire S corp thing anyway? Like, what is it all about? So the goal of the S corp is to be able to help reduce self-employment taxes. All right. So I just told you, everything that you make from your business, you are going to be taxed 15.3%. And not only is this for business owners, but if you are a 1099 contractor, that many of you are, you know, when you're in the wellness business, sometimes you get a 1099, right? If that income is, you know, large, it's going to also generate that self-employment taxes too, because the 1090 as a 1099 contractor, you are also considered to be self-employed. So if you receive a 1099, when you do your taxes, you're going to also generate a Schedule C, because as a 1099 employer, you are considered to be a self-employed. And so that income is also going to generate self-employment taxes. So when you are taking the S-Corp, you are able to now split that self-employment income into two different areas. Okay, so the goal of the S-Corp is to be able to help you reduce self-employment taxes by splitting how you take income from your business, right? So stick with me, okay? So you are going to now split your income. Let me make sure I didn't skip anything. Okay, so you are now going to be able to split or divide your income into two areas. That is going to be your salary and your distributions. All right. So the salary, you have to pay yourself like an employee, just like an employee, meaning you have to have your W-2, you have to have a payroll system, you have to have that in order to properly run your S-Corp and be compliant. Okay, so when you take the S-Corp election, the goal is for you to be able to save on those self-employment taxes, which is 15.3%, and you are now going to divide your net income into a salary and a distribution. Okay, that salary has to be on payroll because you now have to pay yourself like an employee. And whatever is left over, you will take in distributions. Now, here's the secret sauce right here. Here's where it gets juicy, because those distributions, those are not subject to self-employment taxes. So that right there is the entire purpose of you becoming an S-Corp, because you have the opportunity to now divide that net income into salary and distributions. Now, before, when you just had an LLC, when you were not taking the S-Corp, everything that you brought in as net income was subject to, it was all subject to 15.3%. But now that you are able to divide that net income into a salary and then into distributions. So the salary part is still going to be taxed just like it was when you work for someone else. But that distribution part that is left over, that money is not going to be subject to self-employment taxes. So that is where you have the opportunity to save right there. All right. So what is a salary? You guys remember what a salary was, right? So a salary is basically what you pay yourself for the work that you do within your business. Just like when you work for someone else, or if you are still working for someone else, when you get that salary, when you get that W-2 and you look at the amount of money you made against the amount of money that you're actually bringing home, it's a difference, right? Because you are being taxed. You have those taxes are being withheld, and it could be federal, Social Security, Medicare, state. And then as the employer, you also have to match that Social Security and Medicare, which is another 7.65%. So yes, there still are taxes involved in this, but there is a sweet spot that is going to help you save money when it comes to the self-employment taxes, all right? And so what we see all the time is S-Corp owners, what they do, they take the S-Corp election and they say, yay, I'm finished with everything. Yay, I got the S-Corp election and now I can finally save on my taxes. No, that is not how that goes. When you get an S-Corp election, you have to have yourself on a salary. You have to put yourself on a salary because the IRS is giving you the benefit of not taking that self-employment taxes on those distributions, but they want you to uphold your side of the token as well and be responsible to have yourself on a salary. That is the requirement. Okay, so we see a lot of entrepreneurs trying to operate under the umbrella of a S-Corp, but they don't have a salary. So what does that mean? that means that they're taking everything that they make as a distribution. And that could be a problem, right? Because the IRS wants you to pay your share into those payroll taxes, which is the federal, the Social Security, the Medicare, the state that we just discussed, right? So when you become an S-Corp, one of the first things that you have to do is to put yourself on a salary, okay? And if you cannot put yourself on a salary, then maybe it's not time for you to be an S-Corp. And so this is one of the topics that a lot of influencers or people we see on social media, they don't share this part with you, that you have to really consider the cost for you to be an S-Corp and really decide if this is something that is going to be beneficial to me right now. Is this something that can fit into my budget? Because although you are saving on self-employment taxes, yes, but there are still other costs that you have to consider, such as the payroll system that you're going to use, such as the payroll taxes that you have to pay, and as well as some other things that we are going to cover today and within the upcoming sessions that we're going to have. But this is the gist of a salary, all right? So you have to remember, once you take this S-Corp election, you have to have yourself on a reasonable salary. And you have to remember that payroll taxes are definitely going to come out, and you have to match that Social Security and Medicare taxes as well as the employer. Okay. So we talked about the salary. Let's talk about the distributions. What are distributions? Distributions is the remaining balance that you have left over after your profits. And after that, it is the profit left over after the salary and after your expenses. That is going to be your distributions. Now, again, this is not subject to self-employment taxes. And this right here is the part that should make you feel like, oh, yeah, this is good, right? Because you're not having to pay that self-employment tax. And let me tell you, when we have done the taxes for other business owners, when we have seen numbers like 8,000, 2,000, we have seen some that was 13,000 because of the self-employment taxes. This is what that amount was, because you have to figure this. When you are operating as an entrepreneur, the more money you make, the more taxes you are going to have to pay back, right? And so it's going to come a time when you need to figure out, is this strategy beneficial for me or not right now? If it's not right now, you're going to come to a time where your income is going to be so high that you need to take the S-Corp election to break out that self-employment tax, okay? So again, the distributions are not subject to self-employment taxes. They show up on your personal tax return as a K1, but you will save the 15.3%. Okay, so another cost that a lot of people do not consider, you have the payroll taxes, and then when you are taking the S-Corp election, you have to file a total different tax filing. Okay, so you have, like back in the day before you took an S-Corp, you had the Schedule C that went right alongside your personal taxes, right? But when you take this S-Corp election, you now have a total new tax filing that you have to file. And filing the S-Corp taxes could run you from $600 to $1,200, depending on your state and depending on your state and where you are. So you have now your personal taxes and your business taxes. So you have to also, count the cost up with that and make sure that everything is making sense for you and your business and where you are currently, budget-wise, right? Okay, so let me give you a real life example. So let's say your business brings in $100,000 in net profit for the year. Okay, you know how we are when we finally reach that six figure. We're like, oh yeah, I've made it now, honey. I'm at 6 figures in my business. But listen, if you're operating as a sole proprietor or an LLC, know that 15.3% is going to hit you, and it's going to hit you hard. because on the profit of 100,000, you're going to have to pay $15,300 just in self-employment taxes alone. So again, we're not talking about anything else that may be going on in your situation with your taxes. But when you put in that you have made $100,000 for the year, self-employment taxes is definitely going to hit you 15.3%, which is $15,300 just in self-employment taxes alone. So if this was a situation where I was preparing someone's taxes and they have a net of 100,000, then yes, I am going to strongly suggest they switch over to an S-Corp so that they are able to save on those self-employment taxes. Okay, like if you look through your previous year's taxes, you're gonna see a line that says self-employment tax. And by that line, it's going to tell you how much you have actually paid in self-employment taxes, right? And so that is the number that you want to get rid of. And by being an S-Corp, that is definitely going to help you with that. Okay. So now that is if you are operating as a LLC. Now, if you take that S-Corp election and you made that same $100,000 and you pay yourself the salary of $60,000, you know you have to be on payroll. Payroll taxes is going to definitely come out. But then you take the other $40,000 as distributions, right? You don't have any self-employment tax on that. So you're going to be saving around $6,120 on self-employment taxes. So is that a deal or not a deal, right? Because that right there is game changer right there. That will change up how much money you're bringing home and how much you are actually paying in taxes. Okay, so what actually changed when you take the S-Corp election? What changes? Number one, again, you have to put yourself on payroll. You're going to have to run that payroll for yourself, and then any employees that you may have too, yes, but you definitely have to put yourself on a payroll. You have to file a separate business tax return. Again, that is the form 1120S. You're going to have to do that. If you are an S-Corp, that's going to be a total different tax filing for your business. Number three, you can take distributions in addition to your salary. So the thing about that is, again, like I previously mentioned, you cannot not take a salary, if that makes sense, if I said that right. You cannot go around the system and say, oh, well, I'm not going to take a salary. You can't do that, right? Because a lot of people, they want to take everything as a distribution and then not take a salary and say, oh, well, I didn't make enough to take a salary. I'm just going to take everything in distributions. If you're not making enough to where you are not paying yourself, then you just need to stay in LLC. Because if you're not making enough to pay yourself, then how are you? You have to also consider the business taxes, tax filing. That's going to be additional. The bookkeeping is going to be additional. All of those things are going to add up. So if you're like, okay, I want to do an S-Corp, but I know I don't want to pay myself, then the S-Corp election is not for you. Okay. Then again, you're going to need a good bookkeeping system to stay compliant, because you need to be able to track your W-2. You need to have that payroll. You need to be able to track your distributions. You need to be able to know exactly how much money you are spending so that you're able to budget correctly, right? And then your bookkeeping is going to be like an audit. If you are ever to get audited, you have the proof, you have the backup to say, yes, this is how much I made, this is how much I spent on payroll, this is how much I paid myself, this is how much I took as distributions. Like, you need to be able to calculate and keep up with that, right? So if you're in this position to say, yes, TK, I am making the money to where I think I need to be able to, I can save on payroll taxes, good. But are you also able to put yourself on a payroll system? Are you in a position to where you're able to hire a bookkeeper? Are you in a position to where you're able to also file an additional tax filing at the end of the year? So you have to ask yourself those questions as well. And then, if all of your answers are yes, then yes, it's time for you to take that S-Corp election. Now, here are some of the misunderstandings that a lot of people have about the S-Corp. They feel like the S-Corp is a business license, but it is not. They feel like they feel like it's a replacement for being an LLC, and it is not. Remember, you're going to keep that same business entity that you have. You're just choosing how you want to be taxed. Okay. Again, you can't take all of your profit as distributions. That's a top no-no. You have to have yourself on salary, and you have an option to take distributions. You can take them, or you can just leave them in your business. That's totally up to you, but you have to take a salary. Okay. And again, this is not for everybody. Your profit really matters. Your budget, it really matters. Okay. So we need to make sure that we have a clear understanding before jumping into an S-Corp. All right. So here are some of the common mistakes that we see, that we have really seen over this past tax season. Again, taking those profits as a distribution without having a salary, that is a red flag. The IRS is looking for people who have taken the S-Corp election and do not have themselves on a salary. That's a no-no. And they will come back and say, okay, you have to pay taxes off everything that you have taken as a distribution because you didn't have yourself on salary, and that's a requirement. Okay. Or people sometimes forget to file Form 2553 to actually take the S-Corp election on time. But there is a workaround with that we'll talk about in the boot camp. Like if you're wanting to take the S-Corp election now, you still can, but there is a workaround that we have to do in order to get that application approved. Okay. Another thing that people do as a mistake is not running payroll correctly. You want to have a payroll system in place, okay? Some people are like, I will DIY it myself. Nah, this is something you do not want to DIY. Okay, some things when it comes to building a business, you don't want to DIY everything, and this is definitely one of them, right? Because you want to stay compliant when it comes to your payroll, because there are payroll taxes that you have to pay. There are payroll tax filings that you have to file, and so you want to make sure that you are connected with a good payroll system or payroll provider. Okay. So another thing is not having accurate and organized books. This right here is one of the things that I always preach about. When you first start your business, you need to have some type of organization when it comes to your bookkeeping, whether you are writing it down or whether you're at a space to where you're able to hire someone, but you need to have those books organized. All right. So, and that is where having the right accounting team in your corner would definitely make a big difference. Okay. So, we provide all of these services. We provide accounting, payroll, as well as tax preparation. Okay. So we're not going to leave you out there like that all willy-nilly, but we are a full house bookkeeping firm, accounting firm, and we're able to help and advise in all of these areas. All right. So who should consider an S-Corp? Now, if you are operating your business and you're making at least $70,000 to $80,000 in profit, yes, you probably need to consider being an S-Corp. If you are actively working in your business, if you want to save on taxes the legal and the smart way, and if you are ready to run payroll, if you are ready to file that separate tax return, and again, if you are ready to have the monthly bookkeeping, accounting in place, then yes, it is time for you to start saving on those self-employment taxes and go ahead and take that S-Corp election. Now, if you are feeling like, okay, well, maybe I'm not at that point yet, all right, that's totally fine. Go ahead and get all the information that you need in order to on how to get the S-Corp status, how to maintain it, how to stay compliant, And then when you are ready, you will be ready, right? Because you have everything you need when it comes to maintaining the S Corp and how it's really going to benefit your business. Again, speaking of all that, that brings us back around to the S Corp boot camp that's going to be coming up in the month of May. I want you to get ready to prepare yourself because this is going to give you everything you need, right? You're going to have the understanding of how the S Corp status works for people that are in the wellness industry. You're going to know confidently how to pay yourself the right way and how to stay out of IRS trouble. You are going to walk away with your S Corp set up, or you're going to have your S Corp optimized if you have already taken this election. You're going to walk away with tools and templates and guides and checklists and calendars, calculators, all of those good things, right? You are going to know how you're able to profit and keep more of what you earn in your business. All right. So keep in mind about the S Corp bootcamp that is coming up. The registration is going to be opening up next week. So for now, I want you to join us every Wednesday at noon Eastern Standard Time. You can join us in the Facebook group. The Facebook group is called the Medspa and Wellness Accountant. Our next week topic, we're going to dive a little bit more on should you become an S Corp? What are the rules? What are the regulations? Where you should be at when it comes to that threshold of income? We're going to dive deeper into that. All right. So in the meantime, if you have any questions, please reach out to me. My email address is hello@tkbarlow.com, or you can just go ahead and get in the group and post your questions there. All right. So in the meantime, cheers to your success, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.